You go to the Sea of Galilee, and it's one of these places where you're actually and literally looking at the same view that Jesus saw with his disciples.
Whether you are a Roman official in Tiberias, a tax collector at Capernaum, or a pagan over at Hippos, they can all see this beautiful body of water.
Zuzu, you have a new book out, The Galilee Table, Flavors, Sights, and Stories from the Land Where Jesus Walked. That looks amazing, Zuzu. This is the famous boat, huh?
This is the famous and fascinating boat. In this little country, in this little area where Christianity began, where the Jewish people began, this is a letter from this period.
The Sea of Galilee, HaKinneret. As we know, through the writings of the New Testament, Yeshua chose the Galilee and the Sea of Galilee to be the center of his ministry. During the Second Temple period, there were two major areas that Jews were settled: Jerusalem, Judea, and the Galilee, the Sea of Galilee. The Jews around the Sea of Galilee were more willing to listen to a new thing, and Yeshua felt that that was the right place to bring the new message of salvation, the new story of redemption. Yeshua chose his disciples from around the Sea of Galilee. We know he called the fishermen, Peter, come and follow me. Yeshua did mighty things in the Sea of Galilee. The feeding of the 5,000, the walking on the water. Yeshua crossed to the other side of the sea and he healed a possessed man. When we think about the miracle around the Sea of Galilee, a miracle that started 2,000 years, the miracle is ongoing till today. Let us dive into unique stories around the Sea of Galilee.
The Sea of Galilee is both a unique and important body of water. It is the largest source of fresh water in the state of Israel, but also one of the lowest freshwater bodies in the entire world. What's incredible about this sea is that it has many layers to its story. It's spiritually significant. It's the place where much of the ministry of Jesus takes place, both around and even inside the lake itself. But it's also significant to the state of Israel as a modern country. The early settler communities, the kibbutzim on the shores of the Galilee, used this water to feed their crops, to really establish the foothold of the young state on the shores of this very sea. And even today, with all the technology we have, this body of water is incredibly important both to the state of Israel and to the neighboring countries. So today we're diving deep into the story of the Sea of Galilee, this both spiritually significant and physically significant body of water.
What began here? Began here the Christianity, began here the Jewish revival movement.
You make a very good point. The Galilee is the real startup hub for this country.
Of course.
I think it's an incredible experience where someone gets today to get in a boat of similar size, similar dimension, similar feel to the same boat that Jesus, the disciples, and everyone who lived in that period would have used to trade, to fish, to travel.
The story's not over. I think about everything that's going on around here, and to me, that's a miracle.
I'm on my way to sail the Sea of Galilee with Chris Morales from Galilee Tours.
Chris, good to see you.
Andy, welcome aboard, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Their wooden boats, reminiscent of those from the times of Jesus, are perfect for experiencing the marvels of the mystical lake.
We are right in the middle of the Sea of Galilee, really more on the northern portion of it. And it's a beautiful day, beautiful time of the year to be out on the water.
If you look at the Sea of Galilee from above, it is shaped like a harp. In Hebrew, the lake is called Kinneret, which means harp.
From 30,000 feet down to water level, where are we and what is this place?
We're right here in the heart of the Middle East. And one thing that's interesting about the geography of this location, the Sea of Galilee is a part of what is the longest natural geological formation on planet Earth, the Great Syrian Rift. So it extends from Turkey all the way down to Mozambique in Africa. This is the lowest freshwater lake on Earth. It's about 700 feet below sea level. And it is a small, relatively small lake. It's only about 13 miles at its longest point and about 7 or 8 miles at its widest point. And it's also relatively shallow, about 150 feet at its lowest point. And of course, when we think about the Sea of Galilee, we think about the New Testament, we think about the storms. And one of the beautiful things about the geography here is that the storms typically come from the west and move to the east. And so you have all of this elevation here. When thunderstorms come and they lose that elevation, they lose some of the support that actually allows them to have...
They dissipate, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So they dissipate. When a thunderstorm dissipates, it dumps not only rain, but wind. Because the body of water here in the Galilee is so shallow, it's easier to whip up high waves in a shallow body of water than it is in a very deep body of water. So it fits perfectly to create these waves and these storms that are dangerous and hazardous to life of the disciples, for example, on a boat. Fits with the scriptures. It's like a glove.
It's no surprise that the Sea of Galilee draws about 1 million visitors every year.
Well, the beautiful thing is that everybody's expecting something a little bit different when they come. And the Galilee provides us with more than enough stories. But most of the people that come, they want to experience what the Galilee was like when Jesus was here in the first century. 75% of the events in the gospel took place right here between En-Gev on the other side and Tiberias right behind us.
What would be those top highlights of seeing on the shores of the Galilee?
If we were to start over here in this direction, we have Magdala, which is a relatively newer discovery, 2009, obviously associated with Mary Magdala. Then if you're going to go on and pan towards the northeast, you have the Mount of Beatitudes, traditional site of the Sermon on the Mount. And then kind of continuing on, you have Capernaum, the headquarters of Jesus' ministry. Jesus preached the bread of life message at the synagogue there in John chapter 6. And then you go over to where the Jordan River comes into the north, and that's where Bethsaida, the hometown of Peter, Andrew, and Philip. So 3 of the 12 disciples were all there. And then you go over to the other side, and you have Corsi, and then you have Susita or Hippos, which was one of the Decapolis cities. A lot of times, the most common response that I get when people come and experience this ride on a boat in the Galilee is they say, wow, I didn't imagine that I'd be able to see all of these locations from one spot. All 55 kilometers that go around the Sea of Galilee, you can see that right here from this boat.
Another breathtaking sight, visible from the boat, is the vibrant greenery of the kibbutzim surrounding the lake. These Jewish agricultural communities, established as early as 1900, continue to thrive to this day.
The oldest kibbutz in Israel is on the very southern shore of the Sea of Galilee, Kibbutz Degania, 1910. And so that was kind of started it all. And so from then you have several kibbutzim that survived during the pre-State of Israel conditions, that survived that period between the War of Independence and the founding of the state and the Six-Day War. You know, you have Kibbutz Haon and Kibbutz En-Gev that were...
They were shelled for decades, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and they survived and they were attacked and they rebuilt. The story of Israel, the story of the people, did not end when the Gospels ended. There's still so many miracles, I believe, that are happening today around this lake.
One of the greatest modern miracles of the Sea of Galilee took place on a stormy day in 1986, when the lake gifted 2 local fishermen from a nearby kibbutz with one of the world's top 10 archaeological biblical discoveries, an entire wooden boat dating back to the time of Jesus.
The ancient boat, the Jesus boat, was discovered in 1986. That sparked this idea, this vision of having wooden boats sailing on the Sea of Galilee again.
I didn't know that was the trigger.
Yeah.
So finding the original boat was the trigger for the wooden
That was
boats.
the trigger. Before that boat was discovered, there were no wooden boats that you see so common here. So really that discovery sparked what is new life and new business and the new possibilities here.
Undoubtedly, the Sea of Galilee remains a profound source of miracles.
It's just one story of who knows how many others are out there that have that same kind of beginning, but through some discovery, through some kind of revelation, through something, they realize that there's something bigger at play here, not only here in the Galilee, but in the land as well.
Welcome back.
Mati, the Sea of Galilee. Small lake. There are much bigger lakes around the world.
Yeah.
But God, in His wisdom, chose the Sea of Galilee to be the stage of the story of the New Testament. If I was God, I would probably choose Jerusalem. Why we end the story only in Jerusalem?
That's a very good question, and I've thought about it. I've actually been reading about this lately. The main roads in this land, the trade roads, a lot of the commerce goes by the shores of the Galilee. So when he's preaching the Sermon on the Mount and he's talking in the different cities or the towns along the way, people traveling through this region, including on the pilgrimages, they go through that region. And there's one more thing, where the region of the Galilee was the only independent region in the time of Jesus. So Jerusalem's under Roman control, and every other province in the land, they're all under Roman control. His goal, and most of his time, wasn't spent fighting with people in the temple. It was ministering to the people
He was
throughout the country.
proclaiming the kingdom of God.
Yeah, and he went to where people were willing to listen.
I don't know if our viewers know, TBN is building a studio and a hotel on the north side of the Sea of Galilee. We see that the Sea of Galilee is one of the center of tourism locally and internationally.
Yeah, I think that's what's incredible, again, about that part of the country, where it was a spiritual center 2,000 years ago. It was a spiritual center after the temple's destructed for hundreds of years, that Galilean area. And even today, people from Christian faith, from Jewish faith, still go back to that same place as a source of life, both spiritual and physical.
So let's continue watching.
I'm meeting Dani Zamir at Kibbutz Ginosar, nestled along the tranquil shores of the Sea of Galilee.
Shalom, Dani.
Alan, nice to meet you.
Good to
How are
see
you?
This idyllic community, founded in 1937, epitomizes the pioneering spirit of the early Zionist movement in Israel and is also home to the famous Jesus boat.
So, Dani, we're standing here in Kibbutz Ginosar.
Yes.
What is this place? I mean, what is the story of the place we're standing in?
Kibbutz Ginosar and Kibbutz in general, it's a group of people, young people, that share everything. This was the idea when it was invented in the first of the 20th century. The kibbutzim, all the movement of the kibbutzim began here in the Kinneret. There was nothing here. It was desert and rocks with all the kind of mosquitoes. With enemies, no one wanted to live here. And this is the real place.
Kibbutz Ginosar is home to the Yigal Alon Center, whose centerpiece is the famous Jesus boat, discovered by members of the kibbutz, the Lufan brothers, in 1986.
It's so impressive in real life.
Yes, it's bigger than you think. This is the thing that's inspiring me. In the era of 1936, 37, young Jewish boys coming and establishing again the revival of the Jewish movement, and the children of these pioneers find the boat. The connection is so inspiring and so fantastic. In this area, Jesus walked, Jesus prayed, Jesus lived. This is something from his time.
It's very impressive to stand here and take in the size of it and the history of it, the feel of it. When we read about the disciples and him and people of that time sailing in a boat, suddenly we have an image that we can connect to. Most things that you find that are 2,000 years old are stone or metal.
Yeah.
You very rarely find anything that is wood. And here we have not just a piece of wood, we have a whole boat.
Yeah.
How does a boat last 2,000 years in the water without disappearing completely?
So what happened, we assume, of course, that the boat was sinked into the beach, and because the sand covered it, there was a vacuum, there was not air, so it was like in a box, very, very tight. And the boat didn't have a connection with the air, with the oxygen and something like this. So this is the only explanation how it could reserve so much years.
So the boat sinks, and for 2,000 years it's covered in sand and mud. And then the water in the Sea of Galilee keeps going down and down and down and down. And suddenly it's exposed to the air again.
Yes, but I want to say two things in this occasion. First of all, exactly. The water less down, 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 and they found the boat. But today it could not happen. Why? Because Israel, invent a new invention, and today the Sea of the Galilee has the same level of water every year.
So to find this, it took a very unique set of circumstances where the water's low, which isn't going to happen again. The boat was preserved, which hasn't happened since,
point.
and someone finds it, which also hasn't happened since.
Exactly.
Moving and restoring the Jesus boat was no less challenging or miraculous.
So it was a very unique project, and we didn't know how to do it. So we invent. And what we did is to take the boat and to put a very specific spray around the boat, take it with a crane through the water to here. And everybody was praying to God that the boat
Doesn't fall apart.
And it succeeded. And we put the boat here, and we built this room on the boat.
Yeah, it's an incredible story.
Yeah.
We're here on the shores of the Sea of Galilee. People reconnect to a story that's been waiting for someone to find it for almost 2,000 years.
I can explain it, but when you are entering here and you see the boat, something happened to you. And understanding the connection of the boat to all the story is something marvelous.
Shalom from Jerusalem and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the Sea of Galilee. Some scholar calls it the fifth gospel. Today we have the honor to have with us a friend, Dr. Seth Postel. Seth Postel is a doctor at the One for Israel College here in Israel. Seth, welcome. It's a great honor having you, my friend, here.
Great to be
It's not
here.
your first time here at the TBN studio. When we talk about the Sea of Galilee, there's no doubt that the Sea of Galilee was the stage for Yeshua,
Yeah.
Jesus, of his teaching. We hear about the story of Yeshua calming the sea in Mark chapter 4. You're a New Testament professor. What does it mean for you?
Yeah, so actually, I'm glad that you mentioned the story of the calming of the sea in Mark chapter 4. If you look at the ways in which the authors of the New Testament are constantly trying to understand and present Jesus in light of the Old Testament, they want the readers to make sense of who he is. And what's really remarkable about specifically Mark's telling of that story in Mark chapter 4, verses 35 through 41, is there are a number of parallels to Jonah chapter 1. So anybody that knows a little bit about the Old Testament immediately notices he's in a boat, there's a terrible storm, the boat starts filling with water, Jesus is in the boat sleeping. Obviously you see immediately, hey, that reminds me of the story of Jonah. And what's really interesting is just like in the story of Jonah chapter 1, the sailors, the disciples come and they wake Jesus up, and they even say exactly what the captain said to Jonah, don't you care that we're drowning? But suddenly Jesus gets up and he's the one that rebukes the storm. And the text then ends with a question. The disciples are saying, who then is this that even the wind and the waves obey him? It says they fear a great fear. Now, that reminds us exactly of the sailors with Jonah who feared a great fear. But what do they do immediately? They worship the Lord. The point is that based on these parallels, any reader of the New Testament who knows the Old Testament will realize immediately that Jesus does in that story only what the God of the Old Testament can do. That is something exclusively divine. The calming of the winds, the controlling of the waves is something only God does. But the point of the story is not that Jesus is like Jonah. The point of the story is that Jesus does what God does in the story of Jonah, so that when the disciples say, who then is this that even the wind and the waves obey him, right? They may not have known the answer, but anybody familiar with the Old Testament
Beautiful.
would say, yeah, I know who it is. This is the God of the universe with them in the boat. And so one of the clearest displays of the divine identity of our Messiah was on the Sea of Galilee.
Now let's fast forward. The Sea of Galilee, 2,000 years ago, the Sea of Galilee today. What does it mean for you? When you drive to the Galilee and you stand in front of the Sea of Galilee, what do you think?
You know, Israel obviously is a modern nation, and there's been a lot of changes. And so sometimes, like, it's even difficult to imagine what things must have been like at the time of Jesus. But you go to the Sea of Galilee, and it's one of these places where you're actually and literally looking at the same view that Jesus saw with his disciples. It is a place, I find, more than any other place in the land of Israel, it's a place where I really feel like I'm with Jesus.
Seth, we have people watching us from all over the world, people that love Israel, people that pray for Israel. Any last word for them?
You know, We're looking at some kind of unprecedented and some very difficult times. I just want people to stay focused on the fact that God cannot forsake his people. He cannot break his promises.
Amen.
And so we appreciate the prayers, and we know the end of the story. Not to get depressed, not to be focused on the darkness, but to keep our eyes on the light.
What a great honor having you with us. Thank you, Dr. Seth Postel.
Thank you.
And to you, our friends, once again, keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and come and visit the Sea of Galilee.
I'm on my way to Migdal, also known as Magdala, and once home to Mary Magdalene. I'm meeting Youssef Zuzuhana, a Christian Arab chef renowned for turning Galilean cuisine into a gourmet experience.
I was born in Kfar Rama in the northern Galilee. Galilean restaurants were known for being simple, so I decided to invent a new Galilean cuisine, a connection of old and new. I'm using produce that's been around since Jesus' time and still are here now.
What does it mean to you as a Christian Arab, living for many generations in this land, and now having a restaurant with this name, Magdalena, in Magdala?
Especially with Mary Magdalene, a servant of Jesus, having been from this place precisely, I thought that with this authentic food I am making here, using produce from Jesus' time, like the olive oil, the dates, the fish, I found a very strong bond with this world. So this restaurant can give tourists a place to really taste and feel this place.
You have a new book out, which is called The Galilee Table. I've read through it. It's super impressive.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you, how did you come up with all these recipes?
Some is my family recipes. Some also I take from myself. I make research about all the food from the Bible, and I try to make it with a new touch in this book.
There was one bishop who had dinner with me, and he asked me if I have any book with my name on it to take home, and I didn't. Then I said I was going to write a book and call it The Galilee Table. I followed Jesus into Galilee. Everywhere he stepped foot, I gathered the plants and created recipes from them. I divided the book into chapters representing the different periods Jesus spent in the Galilee. I only used ingredients that existed in Jesus' time. I never broke that law.
It does an amazing job of connecting between the biblical stories of the Galilee and modern-day food. And I think anyone who is interested in what happens here in the land and want to take something home with them that is a story of the cuisine of this place, this is a good way to go about it.
I think absolutely.
Today, Zuzu is creating a dish inspired by cherished childhood memories, fishing with his brother by the Sea of Galilee, and cooking the fresh-caught St. Peter fish over a small fire on the banks.
I take this kind of fish.
It's a local Galilean fish.
Local Galilean.
And this is olive branches from the Galilee.
Exactly.
And you grill them on this...
And the grill with olive oil, with a little sauce and salt, and will be perfect.
That looks amazing, Zuzu.
Now I mix it with the fennel with the arak.
Arak is anise-flavored
Anise,
liquor.
exactly.
I'm saying it for the viewer's sake. It's anise-flavored
Local
liquor.
made arak.
Local made
Yeah.
anise-flavored liquor?
Exactly.
That's a crazy
And
flavor
the sauce.
combo. Beautiful.
Thank you.
After a delicious and satisfying meal, Zuzu and I head down for sunset on the lake that holds all the memories and miracles of this magical place.
Zuzu, it's amazing that me and you are standing here 2,000 years later after the events of the New Testament. You're hosting people that are coming here in search of that same experience, the one that is told in the New Testament about Jesus and the disciples, and they get to do the same thing at your restaurants, breaking bread, you know, sharing a meal, eating fish from the Sea of Galilee in the same exact place.
It's a lovely story.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.